Ladies and gentlemen, my friends, the generational conundrum at the workplace. Workplaces, something that many of you will soon find out about. As soon as this wonderful time you call your university days, where you can do things and experience things and say things and learn things and be creative, you will end up going to the workforce unless you are born into those rich families that Ian was talking about earlier, where right from the beginning you already have a Mercedes and you don't need to go to work. The rest of us need to go to work. We will go to work, and we will suddenly find out that we have a different animal waiting for us at the workplace. A different animal, meaning a different human with different thoughts and different ideas on how to live life. It's a beautiful cocoon when you are at university. Guys, it's nice. It's fun. Stay here as long as you can. Try not to leave. Don't fail exams, but just keep on studying if you can afford it. Because once you come out to the real world, the big, bad, older people will be waiting for you to squash and to press and to change your mind, to mold your mind into what they want you to be. This, essentially, ladies and gentlemen, is the generational conundrum. The biggest problem that we all face at the workplace is that for the first time in human history, we find 4, sometimes 5 generations of people are working together in the same office. Okay? You will go to work and suddenly you will meet your father. Really? I didn't sign up for that, man. I signed up to get a degree, a creative degree, and go into an organization and shine and outshine, and then you will meet your father's elder brother there. Your uncle, who is the difficult uncle at home, that uncle will be your boss, who will tell you, can I do this? No. Shall I do that? No. I want to try something new. What for? We have done it already. So this is essentially the problem that we were all going to face. And interestingly, all those of us who are uncles now, like me, I'm 53 years old, therefore I qualify to be an uncle. Not in my head, but as far as you guys are concerned, I know. We also faced the same problems 25 to 30 years ago when we went to work. When we set foot in our first law firm, Siti Kasim and I, when we walked into that law firm, there was an old uncle who was running that firm who told us what we can do and what we cannot do, and how we should behave. We were working and arguing our cases in front of people who were much, much older than us. And we knew how we felt at that time. We felt like outliers. We felt like nobody understood us. Ironically, we are the same people doing the same thing to you, your generation now. Every generation does the same thing to the next generation. And that's the irony, at the same time, the beauty of life. But the difficulty this time around, ladies and gentlemen, is my generation of people are living longer. We ain't going anywhere. Technological advancements, medical advancements, so on and so forth. Malaysia, for example, our national average for a man and a woman has gone up to 76 and 78, our life expectancy. And many of us are happy to work until we're 60, 65, so you have no chance. We are still there, lording over you. Therefore, the generational conundrum starts. Now let's do a quick kind of check here. It's an interesting check. I don't think I really need to check. I kind of know who the young people are and who the old people are. I do a cursory glance and I see myself and I see Siti and I see the nice lovely uncle and auntie there and I see a couple of older people here, but everybody else looks young. Okay, now I'm going to ask you very simple questions here. How many of you are born between 1946 and 1964? Liar. One person, I have one. Not answering. Anybody answering? Under pressure, don't have to answer. Sitting quietly in the side going like, please try not to call me out, please. So I assume that we may have 1 or 2 people who are born between 1946 and 1964. right? How many of you are born between 1965 and 1979? Yeah, thanks. Put your hand up. Yeah, excellent, excellent. 64 to 79, me included. How many of you are born between 1979 and 1990? We do have a few people here, 1979 and 1990. How many of you are born between 1990 and 2001? Excellent. The millennial generation, the generation that many people want to slap. 1990 to 2001. And how many of you are born after 2001? I feel the need to walk off the stage right now. I feel I'm too old. I feel that whatever I say is going to go to deaf ears. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the reality. Now let's just go back and let's understand these generations that we have here, right? Now this generation, the 1946 to 1964 generation, they are known as baby boomers. This particular generation was raised immediately after the Second World War. Have you all heard of that? Yes. Many of you are Second World War. That's from the Ming Dynasty, isn't it? No, it's not. It's only about 60, 70 years ago, all right? And it was a really difficult time, especially in this part of the world. In Southeast Asia, the Japanese invasion, people didn't have food. There was lots of problems. The Japanese soldiers didn't really treat people well. We lived on tapioca, so my father tells me. I never had to eat tapioca in my whole life like basically as a necessity. I add tapioca because I like the taste of tapioca, which is different, right? We like fried tapioca, don't we? Do we or do we not? Yeah, we do like fried tapioca. It's one of the things. But those people, that generation, didn't like fried tapioca. They had to eat tapioca or taro root because it was the only thing that was available. So you can see that generation, their thought processes, how they thought and what they wanted in life was very, very different to the next generation. The next generation, Gen X, is my generation. I was born in 1971, so I am 53 years old. My generation, you will find, my generation, the 50-something-year-olds, we are the ones who are essentially running the world at the moment. We're in charge. Kamala Harris is most likely the next presidential candidate, my age group, right? Barack Obama, who was a former president of the United States of America, is 58 years old. He's a Gen X, right? It's this generation that's actually running the world. It's interesting. When I say running the world, not just the politics of the world, but businesses, organizations. So the companies that you are going to go and work with are not owned, but are managed and run by people my generation. Now, my generation, different generation. We have a different thought process. We didn't have to eat tapioca. We were okay. Not so bad. Born in the 70s, but we only had 2 TV stations for the longest time in our life. Do you understand what that means? We had something called RTM1 and RTM2. Shocking, right? Shocking. That's all we had. And you know when television started every day? 5 o'clock in the evening. And closed by 11. Did you know that? Yeah, shocking, right? Some of you are going, how can like that? 5 o'clock in the evening, the TV broadcast started, and 11 o'clock at night, it ended. We woke up at 7 in the morning, we had no TV. That's the kind of reaction I'm expecting from you. Good, excellent, right? So, my generation had 2 television stations, and finally, in 1984, can you imagine, 1984, years and years and years before you were born, but years and years and years after I was born, in 1984, we got a 3rd TV station, TV3. And I don't come originally from Kuala Lumpur, I come from a beautiful island called Penang, right? All the best people in the world come from Penang. I know. I agree with you all, right? There's food, everything else is there. So I come from Penang, and Penang, we didn't get TV3 in 1984. We only got TV3 in 1985, 1 year later. Everything a little bit delayed there. So my generation was that generation that had to use our imagination and our independence and think and read and do all sorts of other things. We really had to read, like books, Like we had to hold the book in our hand and turn the page. There was no Kindle. There was no online stuff. We actually had to take paper and touch it and smell it and feel all that, right? Now then we have the next generation, the 1979 to 1990 generation, the Gen Ys, which I sometimes refer to as the lost generation. The lost generation, or in Bahasa Malaysia, our national language in this country, it is the generation of sesat people. The reason why I call them a little lost is because between 1979 and 1990, somewhere in between there, the digital revolution started. It was smack in the middle of the 80s that suddenly we had more things. We had Mega TV. Some of you don't know what I'm talking about, but people who are older will know we had another television station called Mega TV. And then we had NTV7. And then we had 8TV. And then we had the internet. That's what we called it, the internet. All right, so this generation straddles between the time when it was an analog world and a digital world, the beginning of a digital world. This was that generation. And sometimes they're a bit lost. So people who are born closer to 1979 are more like my generation. People who are born closer to 1988, 89, and 90 are more like the next generation. Now the millennial generation, the generation, most of you are not millennials. Most of you are Gen Zs and Alphas. This generation that preceded you is the generation that's the most difficult generation, the touchy-feely generation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like it. I'm taking the day off today. It's a personal day. Mental health issues are very important for us. Blah, blah, blah. It's the kind of feeling. Everything is about feeling. All right? That is why my generation, Gen Xers, find them extremely annoying. Because we didn't have that. When we went to work, we didn't have any feelings. Our boss told us to do things. We did it. If we didn't do it, we got fired. This generation gets fired. They'll go straight to whatever complaints bureau and complain about it. And then we'll all have to deal with it, right? Then this generation was the generation that knew nothing else but the digital world. And then is your generation. The wonderful, actually you guys, in some ways, have become better than the generation before you. You're less touchy and feely, but slightly entitled. Yeah, be honest, you are the way you are. I want to do means I do. I don't want to do, I don't do. This is the way I am, right? So you are that generation. And now find, when you go out to work, you will find that you will have Gen Ys as your line leaders. You will find that you'll have Gen Xers like me as your bosses. So how are you going to deal with this? You cannot show up and feel precious and say that we have to change. At the same time, we know, my generation knows, that the largest workforce in the world right now are millennials and Gen Zs. We have nobody else to deal with. We really don't like, we can't depend on our generations. We have to depend on your generation. So the real test for all of you is how compassionate you become when you get to your workplace. How compassionate you become when you arrive in your workplace. How you look at an older Gen X in your workplace and not get irritated with them because they don't know what you are saying, but immediately look at them and go like, I have to treat my boss like how I treat my father. I have to be kind to my father. I have to be nice to my father. And at the same time, I say the same thing to the Gen Xers and the baby boomers at the workplace today. You have to treat the millennials and the Gen Zs who are coming not as irritants, but like your own kids. Because parents, you know which generation created you all? I am the proud creator of you fellas. Right? Because my generation, 53-year-olds, your parents are around my age. Correct? Your parents are around my age, 53. We created you all. We ended up making you all. We ended up giving you everything that you have today. Right? But now when you come and work for us, we go like, why are you like that? Why are you like this? Why are you like that? But when we go home to our own children, we have so much of time for them because you can't throw your own child out of the house, can you? No matter how annoying they become. Right? No matter how they irritate you, you can't just throw them out of the house. However, at the workplace, because you're annoying, because you're irritating, means you go find another job. Right? And the compassion that we need at the workplace, breaking through stereotypes, understanding everything that we heard so far, listening to Niall about focus, listening to Ian about his ideas on breaking through, listening to all the speakers, Erica and Kavita and everybody else who spoke today, right? Everybody talked about this. Everybody talked about using your faculty, using your mind to push yourself forward. Now, the generational conundrum is exactly the same. When you understand that you should be, you must be, and you have to be compassionate with people who are older than you simply because they come from a different generation with different thought processes, and what they find important is not important for you. And what you find important, they cannot completely understand what is going on in your head and why you think the way they do. Or why you think the way you do, they don't know why you do that. So I think the best way forward for all of us is to be compassionate. Thank you very much. My name is Shankar Sanjaram. Lovely to meet all of you.